Jack Bennett stood tall at the speaking platform. The large round room was silent. 247 different alien species watched him. Some had tentacles, some had many eyes. Some looked almost like humans, but none of them expected what Jack was about to say. For 300 years, humanity has tried to be a good member of this galactic council. Jack said. His voice was calm but firm. For 300 years, we have followed your rules. We have limited our growth. We have slowed our progress. We have waited for permission to use our own ideas. Jack paused and looked around the room. The blue-skinned Arcturians shifted uncomfortably. The insect-like Vex clicked their mandibles nervously. Today, that ends, Jack continued. Earth and all human colonies are officially leaving the Galactic Council effective immediately. A wave of shocked murmurs swept through the chamber. Council leader Trooks, an ancient Arcturian with silver skin that showed his 1,000 years of age, rose from his seat. Ambassador Bennett, surely this is a misunderstanding, Trooks said. His translator made his high-pitched voice sound smooth and reasonable. The council has always valued Earth's participation. Jack shook his head. No misunderstanding. Council leader, last month you rejected our new engine design because it was too advanced too quickly. Last year you denied our request to settle 3 empty planets because humans expand too aggressively. For centuries you've called us young and impulsive while taking our resources and using our soldiers when you needed them. The representatives from Proxima Centauri, longtime allies of Earth, looked down at their tablets. They knew Jack was right. We have prepared data packets detailing the handover of all council responsibilities, Jack said. He nodded to his assistant Lisa Carter, who tapped her tablet. All human peacekeeping forces will return to human space within 30 days. All trade agreements under council authority will end within 90 days. The draconian representative stood up, his scaled face showing rare emotion. This is outrageous. Without human peacekeepers who will patrol the outer rim, that is now a council problem, not a human problem, Jack replied calmly. The chamber erupted in voices, some angry, some panicked, some confused. The Vex representatives clicked so rapidly their translators couldn't keep up. Council leader KRX banged his ceremonial staff on the floor 3 times. The room quieted, but the tension remained thick in the air. Ambassador Bennett TRCK said, his voice now less smooth and more strained. Perhaps we can discuss your concerns. The council can form a committee to review human grievances. Jack almost laughed. Another committee, another century of talks. No, thank you, council leader. Humanity has voted. The decision is made. Jack turned to the human delegation seated behind him. 12 men and women representing Earth and the major human colonies were done. Here they stood as one and began walking toward the exit. The massive doors at the end of the council chamber seemed far away under the staring eyes of hundreds of aliens. Nobody tried to stop them. Most were too shocked. Some were secretly pleased. A few already understood what this would mean. As Jack reached the doors, a small gray alien with large eyes stepped into his path. It was Nyx, representative of the Aridan people, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. You don't understand what you're doing, Nick said quietly. The council needs humanity more than you know. Jack looked down at the ancient alien. Maybe, but humanity needs its freedom more. He walked past Nyx and through the doors. The human delegation followed. None of them looked back at the council chamber as the massive doors swung shut behind them in the transport ship heading back to the Human Embassy. Lisa Carter looked at the data flowing across her screen. It's already happening, she said. The Galactic exchange markets are dropping. Council security forces are requesting emergency meetings. Jack nodded as he looked out the window at the gleaming towers of Century Prime. The council capital that was fast. Did you expect anything else? Lisa asked. No, Jack said. This was always going to cause panic, but sometimes you need a little panic to create change. The ship rose toward orbit, where the human fleet waited to take them home 1 week after humanity left the Galactic Council. Susan Miller sat in her new office on Earth. Large windows showed the busy streets of New Washington below. As the new director of interstellar relations for the Independent Human Federation, Susan had a big job ahead of her. Your first meeting is here, said her assistant Frank. The Kara Trade Group arrived early. Susan nodded and straightened her blue suit. The Kavor were lizard-like aliens known for their business skills. They had reached out to humans just 2 days after the council. Exit 3. Core walked into the room. Their scales shimmered with greens and golds. The tallest one stepped forward. Director Miller, I am Saz, Thai Chief Trade Officer for the Krav Merchant Guild, he said through his translator. We are pleased to meet without council observers for the first time. Susan shook his clawed hand carefully. Welcome to Earth. I'm surprised how quickly you contacted us. Sassy's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. Many species have wanted direct trade with humans for a long time. The council's rules made this difficult. Now we can talk freely. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the council chambers were in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other. Some pounded tables, others waved data tablets showing economic predictions. Council leader Trox tried to restore order. He banged his staff on the floor again and again. Few listened. The humans control too many key resources, shouted the draconian representative. Without their metals and rare elements, our shipbuilding industry will collapse. Who will protect the trade routes in the outer rim? Demanded another alien. Our ships are being raided already. Finally got the room quiet enough to speak. We must form a committee to address these concerns, he said. More committee, said an Aridan representative named Nix. That is why the humans left. We talk while they act back on Earth. Susan sat with Sai and the other Crawford. They reviewed trade agreements on their tablets. These terms are very fair, said Sai. The council would never allow such direct exchange. Susan smiled. The Human Federation believes in simple, honest trade. No more complicated council taxes or waiting periods. Sassed. I leaned forward. May I speak openly? Director Miller, please do. Many species secretly admired humans. I said your kind solves problems quickly. You invent new things. You take risks. The older council species feared this. Susan was surprised by his honesty. Then why didn't more species support us in the council? Fear, said Sassai. Simply the ancient species like the Arcturians and Aidans have controlled the galaxy for thousands of years. They convinced everyone that their slow, careful way was best. 3 days later, 20 other alien trade groups had contacted Susan's office. All wanted direct agreements with humanity. The Human Federation ships were busier than ever, carrying goods directly to worlds that had previously received human products only through council middleman. At the same time, council leader Trilix met privately with his advisors in his tower on Century Prime. How bad is it? He asked his economic advisor. The thin blue alien looked nervous. Very bad, council leader. The Markets have dropped 15% in 1 week. Human businesses are canceling their contracts with council-aligned companies. And security FRX asked another advisor. Worse, said the security chief. 3. Border disputes have broken out where human peacekeepers once stood the drawn are testing their neighbors' defenses. We don't have enough ships to replace the human fleet. SX looked out his window at the glittering capital city. For the first time in his 1,000-year life, he felt something new. Fear. We made a mistake, he said quietly. We never understood how much we depended on the humans. What should we do? Asked his chief advisor. SX turned from the window. For now we pretend everything is fine. We tell the council members that this is temporary and we watch. But as reports flooded in from across the galaxy, Galactic knew the panic was just beginning. 3 months after humans left the Galactic Council, Henry Garrett stood on a stage. In front of 5,000 people. Behind him was a large ship with sleek lines and a blue glow coming from its engines. Today, Quantum Transit Systems is proud to show the new Star Jump drive, Henry said into the microphone. Screens around the huge room showed close-ups of his face and the ship. This drive will cut travel time between stars by 60%. The crowd cheered. News reporters from across human space recorded everything. Some alien reporters had also come to see what humans would do without council rules. The council said this technology was too soon and too fast. Henry continued, they wanted us to wait 50 more years, but humanity doesn't wait. When progress is possible on worlds across the galaxy, aliens watched these broadcasts with mixed feelings. Many were excited, some were scared, all were surprised. A Vex scientist named Crit Cat watched from his lab. His insect-like eyes blinked rapidly. Impossible, he chittered to his colleagues. The energy problems alone should take decades to solve. His younger assistant disagreed. Humans think differently, teacher. They try things we would not try. Meanwhile, on the main council, World SHX met with the emergency committee. The meeting room was smaller than the main chamber, but still grand with its high ceiling and ancient art. The humans have announced a new faster-than-light drive, said the science advisor, a tall gray alien. It breaks several council technology development guidelines. Can we stop them? Asked a representative from a world near human space. How? Trilks asked tiredly. They are not in the council anymore. Our rules do not apply to them. We could threaten trade sanctions, suggested another member. FRX almost laughed. They are already doing more trade with non-council worlds than they did with us. Sanctions would hurt us more than them. The economic advisor changed the display. On the big screen it showed markets and trade numbers. Most were colored red. The Galactic Exchange is down 25%, she said. Companies that depended on council technology rules are losing value fast. Human companies are worth more now than before they left across human space. Factories worked day and night. Ships carried new products to worlds eager to trade. Research labs that had been held back by council rules now worked on thousands of new ideas on Mars. Peter Young worked in a small lab for years. The council had denied his requests to research new medical technology. They said his ideas were too experimental and too risky. Now Peter smiled as he looked at cells growing in dishes. His new treatment might cure diseases that had hurt aliens for centuries. Without council barriers, he could finally help people back on Earth. Susan Miller met with her team. The walls of her office were now covered with maps of trade routes and agreements. In 3 months, humans had established more new trade deals than in the previous 10 years. The Cavor have opened their rare minerals market to us, said her assistant Frank, and the Jigel want our help building new space station. Susan nodded. What about the message from the Aridan representative? Nix, I think his name was. Frank handed her a tablet. He wants to meet secretly. He says many younger council members are questioning the old ways. Susan read the message carefully. Interesting. Set up the meeting, but keep it quiet. We don't want to make things harder for those who might support us. That evening, Henry Garrett watched the first commercial ship with his new star jump drive leave Earth orbit. It would reach Alpha Centauri in just 2 days instead of the usual 5. They tried to keep us slow, he said to himself. They never understood that's not who we are. As his ship vanished into faster than light travel, sensors on council words detected its passage. Alarm systems designed to track technology violations began to sound, but there was nothing the council could do to stop the human technology revolution that had begun. Mary Wilson sat on her porch on Mars, watching the red sunset. After 30 years as a human diplomat, retirement felt strange. Her garden of Earth plants mixed with Martian ones gave her peace, but the news from across the galaxy did not. Her communication tablet beeped. Mary sighed and picked it up. The message was from an old friend, an alien diplomat named Zorn from the police system. Mary, I know you are retired, Zorn's message said, but 3 border conflicts have broken out where human peacekeepers used to be. The council forces are not enough. Can you advise unofficially? Mary watched the dust blow across the Martian plains. She had warned the council this would happen. They hadn't listened. Meanwhile, Vice Admiral Patrick Kelly stood on the bridge of the human ship Defender. Through the large front window he could see the edge of human space. Beyond that was what used to be his patrol zone when humans were part of the council. Sir, another message from our old allies in the Andromeda sector, said his communications officer. The Dron are testing their borders again. Patrick frowned. The Dron were aggressive aliens who only respected strength for years. Human ships had kept them peaceful. Now that humans had pulled back to their own territory, the Dron were causing trouble. Again, what does the message say? Patrick asked. They're asking for help, sir. Unofficially, Patrick looked at the star map. Council rules now prevented human military ships from entering that space. Send them our defensive plans from last year, he said, after thinking. That's not against any rules. We're just sharing old information on the council. Capital World. An emergency meeting was happening. Representatives from 12 worlds near Dron space were angry and afraid. The Dron have moved ships to our borders, shouted one blue-skinned alien. They have threatened 3 trade routes. Where are the council defense forces? Asked another council leader. Trilks looked tired. Dark circles showed under his eyes. The defense fleet is spread too thin, he admitted. Without human ships we cannot cover all sectors. Then ask the humans to help, said the representative from Toydia world that had often supported Earth in council votes and admit we need them. Asked another representative that would show weakness. SHX closed his eyes briefly. Pride had always been the council's problem. Now it might lead to war back in human space. Susan Miller met with the Defense Committee. Maps and reports covered the table in front of them. The situation is getting worse, she said. Our old allies are being threatened. The council's peacekeeping force can't handle it. Not our problem anymore, said one general. We left for good reasons. Susan showed another report. If the Dron attack our former allies, it will affect our new trade routes too, and they won't stop there. What do you suggest? Asked the committee head. We can't send military ships without breaking our own exit agreement, Susan said, but we could create a trade protection force with armed merchant ships. Technically that's allowed on Mars. Mary Wilson finally replied to her alien friend. She couldn't ignore the growing crisis. I'm sending you some unofficial thoughts on dealing with the Draxon, she wrote, and I'll contact some old colleagues who might help. As Mary sent the message, she noticed a news alert the Dron had fired on a council patrol ship. No one was hurt, but it was a clear challenge. Mary put down her tablet and looked at the stars appearing in the darkening Martian sky. Somewhere out there, the peace that humans had helped maintain for centuries was breaking down. She had another message, this one from Earth. The Human Federation wanted her to come out of retirement as a special advisor. So much for my garden, Mary said to herself as she began packing a bag. The peaceful time of humanity's withdrawal was sending. Now came the hard part. 1 year after humans left the Galactic Council, the Grand Council chamber felt colder than before. Many seats were empty. Some species had stopped sending representatives as the council's power weakened. Council leader Trilks called the meeting to order, but his voice lacked its old strength. We must address the economic crisis, he said. Many worlds cannot pay their council dues. Basic services are failing on outer world. Worlds. A green-skinned representative stood up. Why is this happening? The humans were just one species out of hundreds. The economic advisor touched her screen and numbers appeared on the big display. Humans were paying nearly 30% of all council costs, she explained. Their resource contributions were far larger than other worlds of similar size. Shocked whispers filled the room. Most representatives had never known this. Why wasn't this shared before? Asked the representative from TCFRX. Looked down. The founding species felt it might give humans too much influence if everyone knew. Meanwhile, on a beautiful ocean world called Azura, Olivia Barnes welcomed representatives from 27 non-council worlds. The meeting room overlooked blue waters and white sand beaches. Welcome to the first official gathering of the Independent Trade Consortium, Olivia said. As humanity's ambassador to non-council worlds, she had worked for months to create this new group. The aliens in the room came in all shapes and sizes. Some breathed water in special suits, others floated above their chairs. All had one thing in common: they wanted freedom from council rules. The consortium has no central government, Olivia explained. Each world keeps its independence. We agree only to fair trade, shared defense, and open communication. Tall, thin alien with 4 arms raised one hand. The council says this group is dangerous and illegal. Olivia smiled. The council only has power over its members. None of us are members anymore. Back on Earth, Susan Miller reviewed reports with her team. The Human Federation had grown stronger in just 1 year. New colonies, new trade routes, and new technologies were changing everything. The latest economic reports show human worlds are now 30% more productive than under council restrictions, said Frank. Looking at his tablet, Susan nodded. And our new trade partners, most are doing better too, Frank replied, especially those in the new consortium. Susan looked at another report and frowned. But the council worlds are suffering. Look at these numbers. The report showed failing services, food shortages, and rising Prices on many council worlds, the poorest planets were hit hardest. Should we care? Asked a newer team member. They pushed us out. We should always care about suffering, Susan said firmly, and instability anywhere affects everyone. Eventually, on the council capital world, a worker named Drav couldn't feed his family anymore. Food prices had doubled. The transport system that brought him to work ran less often. The local medical center had closed. Why is everything getting worse? He asked his friend as they walked home. I heard it's because the humans left. His friend said they were paying for many things the council provided. I thought the humans were troublemakers, Trav said, confused. That's what the council always told us. His friend laughed without humor. Maybe they were right to leave that night. Protests started in the city center. Working people from many species gathered with signs asking for food, medicine, and answers. Similar protests happened on dozens of council worlds. The next morning, SHX looked out from his tower at the crowds below. His advisors waited nervously for him to speak. We can no longer hide the truth, he said finally. The council system was built on human resources, human peacekeepers, and human innovation. Without them, it cannot stand. What do we do? Asked his oldest advisor. Filks turned from the window. His vase showed his 1,000 years of age. Something no council leader has ever done, he said. Admit we were wrong. Daniel Wright smiled as he watched his book rise to the top of the Galactic bestseller list. His novel stars Between Us, a love story between a human woman and an Arcturian man, had been banned by council censors for years. They had called it disruptive to cultural stability. Now freed from council rules, Daniel's books were everywhere. His stories of cross-species, friendship, love, and understanding were being translated into hundreds of alien languages. Another 10 worlds want publishing rights, said his agent over the video call, and 3 different alien film studios want to make it into a movie. Daniel laughed. And to think, the council said, no one wanted human stories across the galaxy. Human culture spread rapidly. Music, art, films, books, and ideas that had been carefully controlled were now freely available. Young aliens especially couldn't get enough. On the council world of Taylor, Marara danced with her friends to human music in an underground club. Her blue skin was painted with human style patterns, and she wore clothes inspired by Earth fashion. My parents would be so angry, she said, laughing. The older Tarians hated all things human, but the younger generation was different. Did you read that new human philosophy book? Asked her friend, the one about individual choices and personal freedom. Mira nodded excitedly. It makes so much sense. Why should the council elders decide everything for us? We should choose our own paths. Similar conversations happened on hundreds of worlds. Council leaders watched in alarm as their young people questioned traditions and rules that had lasted for thousands of years. It's worse than we feared, said the cultural minister to KRX. Human ideas are spreading faster than we can track them. They question the very foundation of our society. Can we block their communications? Asked another advisor. The technology minister shook his head. Impossible now. They use the new quantum networks, and people find ways around blocking anyway. On Earth, Susan Miller met with the Human Entertainment Guild. The group included writers, musicians, artists, and filmmakers who were now reaching the wider galaxy. Your work is having a huge impact, Susan told them. More than any diplomatic effort could achieve. We're just sharing stories and ideas, said a famous singer. Things The council always feared that's exactly why. They feared them. Susan replied, ideas can change worlds more quickly than any weapon. Meanwhile, on the council world of Cree, students gathered in the central plaza. Thousands of young crayons held signs with quotes from human writers. They demanded the right to choose their own careers instead of following the paths assigned by their elders. We want freedom, they chanted. Council security forces watched nervously but didn't interfere. There were too many protesters. Even on Aryan worlds where tradition had ruled for millennia, change was coming. Young Arcturians questioned why they couldn't travel freely, why information was controlled, and why the council made decisions without asking ordinary people. FRX watched reports from dozens of worlds with growing concern. Council authority was being questioned everywhere. This cultural rebellion may be more dangerous than the economic crisis, he told his inner circle. We can fix economic problems with new trade deals, but once young people question the council's right to rule, our power is truly threatened. It's the human influence, said an old advisor angrily. Their ideas are like a disease, a younger advisor spoke up. Or maybe their ideas make sense and that's why people embrace them. The room went quiet. Such words would have been unthinkable a year before. Back on Earth, Daniel Wright received a strange message. It came from an Arcturian youth leader who had secretly read his books. Your stories helped us see another way of living. The message said many of us no longer want to follow the old council ways. Can humans help us create something new? Daniel shared the message with Susan Miller. She read it carefully, understanding its importance. This is what the council feared most, she said. Not our technology or our military, but our ideas. What should I tell them? Daniel asked. Susan thought for a moment. Tell them that humans believe every species should choose its own path and that we are ready to help, not rule. 2 years after humans left the Galactic Council, a large alien ship approached Earth's solar system. It was not a warship but a diplomatic vessel. On board was Council leader KRX himself, along with representatives from the 12 oldest species in the galaxy. We are picking up massive development in this system, said the ship sensor operator. There are structures around every planet and major asteroid. THRX moved to the viewing window. What he saw shocked him. Human space was buzzing with activity. Space stations, shipyards, and habitats filled the space around planets. Mining operations worked on asteroids. Research stations orbited gas giants. This is impossible, whispered an Aridin elder. They've done in 2 years what would take us a century. FRX understood now. Council restrictions have been holding humans back far more than anyone had realized. The alien ship was escorted by human vessels to Earth. The council delegation landed in Chicago, where the new global assembly building waited. It was a beautiful structure of glass and steel, built in just 1 year. President Laura Adams welcomed the visitors in the grand hall. She was a tall woman with dark skin and gray hair. Her face was kind but firm. Council leader Trilks, welcome to Earth. She said, this is an unexpected visit. FRX bowed slightly. President Adams, we come with humility. For the first time in council history, we ask another species to help us. The admission stunned everyone. Never before had the ancient species asked for help. Later, in a meeting room with views of Lake Michigan, Trilix explained the crisis. Without humanity, the council is failing, he said. Economic systems are collapsing. Security cannot be maintained. Young people on Many worlds are rejecting council. Authority. Laura listened carefully and, what exactly are you asking of us, we ask. Humanity to return to the council, Trilks said, to help restore order and stability. Susan Miller, who sat beside the president, spoke up. The same council that restricted us, that treated us as children, that took our resources while limiting our growth. FRX looked down. We made mistakes the oldest species feared. Change. We feared your speed and creativity. We did not understand that these are strengths, not dangers. Meanwhile, across human space, people watched the historic meeting on Mars. Mary Wilson sat with her alien friend, Zorn, who had come with the delegation. Did you ever think you would see this day? Zorn asked the council, begging humans to return. Mary shook her head. Never, but I'm not sure we should. In orbit around Jupiter, Henry Garrett watched the broadcast from his new research station. His team had just finished testing an even faster star jump drive. They want us back because they need us, he said to his chief engineer, not because they respect us. Back in Chicago, President Adams conferred with her advisors after hearing the council's request. They're desperate, said Susan, but they still want the old system with humans just having a bigger role. That won't work, Laura agreed. We can't go backward. The next day, Laura met again with Trilks. Her tone was respectful but strong. Humanity will not return to the council as it was, she said. That system is broken. SRX's face fell. He had feared this answer, but Laura continued, we are willing to help create something new, a true partnership of equals, not a council where some species rule over others. What do you propose? Trilks asked cautiously. A new organization, Laura said, one where all species have equal voice, where innovation is encouraged, not feared. Expansion and growth are balanced with responsibility. SHX looked troubled. The oldest species will resist. They have ruled for millennia. Laura smiled. Changes coming whether they accept it or not. The question is whether they help shape the new galaxy or get left behind by it. From the window they could see Chicago's skyline with ships flying between buildings. It was a sim of what humanity had built in just 2 years of freedom. You have until tomorrow to consider our proposal, Laura said. Humanity has its own path now. We invite you to walk with us as equals, but we will not go back to the old ways. 6 months after the council delegation's visit to Earth, representatives from over 300 species gathered on a beautiful space station orbiting neutral territory. The station was new, built by humans and their allies as a meeting place for what was now called the Interstellar Cooperative. Bill Foster stood at the center of the main chamber as the lead human negotiator. He had spent months working on the framework for this new galactic organization. Welcome to the first assembly of the Interstellar Cooperative, Bill said. His voice was calm and clear. Today marks a new beginning for all our peoples. The room was filled with aliens of all types. Council species sat alongside non-uncouncil worlds. Former enemies sat near each other without the old tensions. The old council system served the galaxy for thousands of years, Bill continued, but it was built on inequality. Some species made rules for all others. That time is over. FRX washed from his seat, no longer at the head of the chamber but among the other representatives. He had fought hard to convince the oldest species to accept this new reality. Bill touched screen and the text of the new agreement appeared on displays around the room. The cooperative has 3 simple principles, he explained. First, all species are equal members with equal votes. Second, Innovation and progress are encouraged. When they benefit all, third expansion. And growth are rights for all, worlds not. Privileges for a few are drawn. Representative raised a clawed hand. And what about security? Who will keep peace? Between worlds we all will, Bill answered. The Cooperative Defense Force will include ships from all member worlds, not just humans. Every species contributes based on their abilities. Many nodded in agreement. Even the drawn seemed satisfied with this answer. On Earth, Susan Miller watched the broadcast with President Adams and her team. Do you think it will work? Lure asked. Susan smiled. It already is working. Look at how many came. Indeed, more species had joined the Cooperative than had ever been part of the Council. Many were younger civilizations that had never been allowed full Council membership. Back on the station, Bill finished presenting the agreement. This is not a human organization, he said. It belongs to all of us. The Leadership Council will have representatives from 12 species chosen by vote and rotating every 5 years. No species may serve 2 terms in a row. This was perhaps the biggest change from the old system where the founding species had permanent leadership positions. Humans don't want to rule, Bill continued. We never did. We just wanted fairness and freedom to grow. Mary Wilson, now serving as an advisor to Bill, watched with pride. She had seen the old Council from the inside and knew how revolutionary this change was. In the years since planning for the Cooperative began, amazing things had happened. Species that had been restricted by Council rules were sharing innovations. Worlds that had been in conflict were trading peacefully. Young people across the galaxy were finding their voices. After the presentation, representatives began voting on the agreement one by one. They pressed buttons on their consoles. Large display showed the results. 295 votes for. Announced the neutral moderator. 8 votes against. The Interstellar Cooperative is officially formed. The chamber erupted in cheers and the alien equivalent of applause. Clicks, whistles humming, and light displays from various species. FRX approached Bill. After the vote, the ancient Arcturian looked tired but at peace. You have changed the galaxy forever, he said. My people feared humans from the first day you joined the Council. We were right to fear you, but for the wrong reasons. Do you mean? Bill asked. We feared you would destroy the old order, Trilk said. And you did, but you have built something better in its place. Later that night, Bill stood at a viewing window looking out at the stars. Mary joined him. When we left the Council, everyone said the universe would descend into panic, Mary said, and it did for a while. Bill nodded. Sometimes you need a little panic to create change throughout the galaxy. Beings of all kinds watched as the news spread. The panic that had begun when humans left the Council was ending. Its place was something unexpected. Hope